Everybody loves surprises. You wake up on Christmas morning and there's presents under the tree. Surprise! You come home after work and your wife has made dinner. Surprise! Your grandson comes to visit and tells you, I'm gay. Surprise! I'm also the Zodiac Killer. Double surprise! You walk down a dungeon hallway and you step on a pressure plate. Surprise! There's basically two tiers or levels of complexity that you can go to with this project. The most simple one is this. Cut one of the squares on your tile, which is going to be the pressure plate that triggers the trap. For this example, I'm going to choose the one in the center. Giving it a mark to remember its original position is a good idea. Prime the pieces separately so they don't stick together. Give them the base color now too. Put the center back in its place and give the pieces the dry brush and washes you want. With the primer and base color, there's the risk of them sticking, but the dry brush and wash have so little amounts of paint that it should be fine. Once everything's dry, slice the top of the centerpiece and paint the other side. Coat the sides with some glue or whatever method you use to protect the paint on your pieces, because the friction between the square and the tile might end up chipping it. The square should be able to slide through easily, but without having too much room or the space between the tiles will give the trap away. If it's too tight, just squeeze the size of the hole with a flat tool, like this popsicle stick. Cut two thin strips of paper and bend the tip. Tape them to the downside of the pressure plate square. Cut the excess paper using the size of the hole as a guide. I chose to tape them and not gluing them because paper is not the most reliable of materials, and that way it's easier to replace if it breaks. The paper strips act as a really sensitive spring that will bend with the weight of a mini. The heavier the mini, the better. But I have tested with the lightest ones I have and it works. I don't think it will work with paper minis unless the base is heavy. I haven't tried with one of those. Maybe you want to set the pressure plate on another square other than the center one, because your players might be smartasses and start avoiding those once they realize where the traps usually are. Just do the same process as I told you, but make sure you hide the gap by placing this side against a regular tile or a wall. I haven't figured an easy way to make the corner squares into traps, but remember that this is an imagination game. If your players think they can escape the traps by stepping only on the corners, tell them they just stepped on a tripwire and throw the trap effect you want. There's another version that takes up two squares and it balances on the edge of the tile. It's more stable than the other one, but when it activates it looks kind of weird. And this is the less complex model of this trap. Just like that, it's ready to go. Once a player steps on one of these, interpret the trap effects as you please. Or you can use the other side of the tile to make a spike or pit trap. And that is the tier 2 of this trap, the more complex one. Cut the tile in thirds and then separate the center square, just like we did on the tier 1 trap. Try and keep the pieces in the original position so when you assemble them back together, they will fit perfectly. Now let's hollow the tile, leaving a case of about half a centimeter thick. Glue the 3/3 back together, except for the centerpiece. Again, prime and give the first coat of paint separately, but only to the stone side. Once this side is finished, check that the center square can slide easily through the hole. Place the paper spring like in the previous trap model, and make any kind of trap you want on the other side. Keep in mind that any object you want to place cannot be higher than the size of the tile, or it will not sit flat and the trap will be easily spotted. Now go betray your friends and family's trust, because that's what dungeon masters do.